September 18th, 2020, and we got ourselves a Stanley Cup final. How many of you sat there 3.5 months ago and thought that was possible? Raise your hand. Oh, I see you out there. I call bullshit, 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 bullshit. Okay, not a chance. 3.5 months ago, we would be sitting there and saying, we're going to look forward to a Stanley Cup final, and we're not going to test anybody positive for this horrible virus that's shut us all down. So good on the National Hockey League, good on the NHL Players Association, and good on the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Dallas Stars. I'm Nick Kyprios. You're watching Real Kyper at noon on this Friday. No Doug MacLean. He's on a golf course. We assume the RV got him there. Cabot Links. You'll never be the same after Doug MacLean leaves. I guarantee you that. But guess what? We got some really good shoes to fill in for Doug MacLean, and that's Paul Bissonnette. BizNasty. How about this guy's story? A little similar like me. Fourth liner, plug, get into the media. That's what you need to do. And fast. And I did it the conventional way. I went on national television, made a bit of a name for myself over 20 years at Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada. And then there's the BizNasty way. Digital, right through the phone, right through social media, taking it to another level quickly and becoming one of the most influential guys out there. So happy to have BizNasty join me on the Real Kyper at Noon show. And Biz, I got to tell you that last year in the playoffs, St. Louis, of course, and Boston, I did Spittin' Chicklets for the first time. And I did know a little bit about your show, and I have listened to it on occasion. And, you know, some people were warning me, hey, listen, you better be careful on that show.
We'll get you canceled.
Yeah, better be careful on that show. But, you know, I can't tell you how many people responded the moment you guys aired that episode, whether I was in Canada or the U.S., and it was most often than not, I loved you on Spittin' Chicklets. I loved the stories. I loved hearing about how, you know, Bobby Clark called you in your kitchen, invite you to training camp. And it just gave me another appreciation for the reach that you've had in such a short period of time. So thanks for having me on your show. And I'm so happy that you're here to join us today.
Well, congrats. I love your setup. We need one of those. We're not that fancy. We got like greasy hotel rooms with stains on the couch and stuff like it's Vegas. But you covered a lot there in the intro, and I'm just going to piggyback what you said about the league and the Players Association, the players themselves going in that bubble, all the staff and people who have kept them safe. Like, it's remarkable what they've done, and the fact that we've reached the finals it's awesome. And a lot of people who have, you know, especially who their lives revolve around hockey. I mean, we wouldn't have had anything to do. And thank you to the players and everyone for being able to entertain us during this difficult time. So applaud the efforts.
Yeah, well said. No question about that. All of us in the industry appreciate it because what's left? Sitting on the couch and watching local news again, just would have left us with nothing. So no question about it. We are talking about you know, whether or not you believe that there should be an asterisk beside it, whether or not you feel like it's the same, whether you feel like 24 teams with a chance to win a Stanley Cup was not necessary. Whatever the case is, that's your decision. That's your world. I know one thing for sure, that what we're dealing with is a lot better of what the alternative would have been otherwise.
Well, that, and I think the Islanders were the only team that were in the play-in situation that could have had a chance at the cup, and now it was two teams that were only in the round robin because, you know, they were the top four of their conference. So if anything, I say it'd be harder to win than the regular one, just given the circumstances and the fact that, you know, for guys who end up going all the way to winning it, 2.5 months inside that bubble away from their families, and it's like you're in isolation almost, like playing prison hockey.
Well, listen, we're going to get in so much, and I really want to hear your story in great detail in terms of, you know, the success of Spittin' Chicklets, your success on social media, and the way that you've been able to transition from what we deem as average careers, me and you both, to
Well, you compare mine to yours, and I don't have a Stanley Cup, and I'm not as even close to as handsome as you are. So, I mean, fuck, whatever. I'll take your scraps, buddy.
I really appreciate that, and I'll let my wife know that as well. That I'm still pretty handsome, but we're gonna get. I want to hear all about it, but let's go right into what we saw last night. The way that Tampa Bay was able to close off the Islanders, and I got to tell you, on a couple occasions, I think Tampa Bay planted a seed of doubt. What I saw last night was giving up the first goal, and then in the second period, wondering whether or not they've lost Anthony Cirelli, not only for the rest of the game, but potentially down the road too. We know Braden Point's hurting like crazy, and all of a sudden there was that belief that the Islanders could still hang in there or even win it.
I thought they'd actually. I thought they were going to win it for sure. I mean, in the third period, they started pressing, and it almost like the situation of the boxer out punching himself. In the first two periods, especially the first itself, like when Tampa gets buzzing in the offensive zone, they get snapping it around. It's like anything else. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people wanted Vegas and Tampa to reach in the finals, because it would have been so entertaining as far as like the sustained ozone pressure. But um, you know, credit these guys, like they're battling through things. I don't know exactly what Point's going through. I know he had off-season hip surgery and he's been in and out of the lineup, and then of course with missing Stamkos, but you could really feel that group thinks that it's their time, and they're willing to play through whatever and figure out a way to get there. And I don't know. It was fun to watch. I was happy that they advanced, because I think overall they are the more entertaining and better team to watch. And who knows, man? This is going to be an interesting final, because you look at in Dallas's situation where, they've been. I don't want to say luck is a kind of carries like a negative tone to it, but I think they were fortunate in the sense where they got to go against Colorado, where they had all these injuries, and I feel like they're going up against a Tampa Bay team who's a little banged up, and maybe they're going to be able to take advantage of that, especially given the fact that they had a few days rest, which I mean, look at Tampa being banged up and everything. I think they're dropping the puck in 44
Yeah.
hours after they'd closed out. So it should be an interesting final. But credit to Tampa Bay for finally getting over that hurdle with this core group.
God, and it's almost as if that in the past, if we would have heard that they lost Steven Stamkos, there'd be oh, can they still do it? And not that he's a forgotten guy here, and you still hope that he can find at some point to get back in the series. But there's nobody that doesn't believe that the Tampa Bay Lightning can't win the Stanley Cup now without Steven Stamkos. And you look at that depth and Point. I don't know what he is, Biz. Is he at 60%, 65%? And he's still logging big minutes, and then he picks his spots to look like he's as good as ever. But he's laboring. But how good is it for John Cooper to have Yannick Gord and Anthony Cirelli?
Oh,
Anthony Cirelli, he was pointless in 5 games, and yet, by the way, I'll score the game-clinching goal, and nobody will care that I was pointless.
I was watching that Yanni Gord's effort yesterday. I think it was in the third period or overtime, and this guy on the forecheck, he's just relentless, and that's what they've definitely added. They've added some depth, and other guys have stepped up. Like I like Killorn coming into the season, I wasn't sure, how much he could elevate his game, but even he had a career year this year, and he's probably close to 30, if not a little beyond. So yeah, definitely a lot of guys elevating their game. And that Yanni Gord, who you mentioned, definitely stands out big time. And that's Cirelli. I was once he went down after that Lee hit, I was like, here we go. I'm like, these guys are going to end up squeaking by, and they're going to have 4 major pieces out of their lineup to go against Dallas, and Dallas is just going to roll them. So it sucks that it's not like a typical year where there's a little bit of a gap between the conference finals and the finals. Like, these guys are going to have to roll right into it. But when you had a GM like Stevie Y that was there for so long, who played on one leg for one of the playoffs, because then you have like a bum knee one year when they ended up winning it.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, they probably have a guy like that around for so long, where it's that trickle down, where it's like, hey boys, if you want to win this thing, you're not going to be able to do so at 100%, because it's like it's war when you get inside the playoffs.
So as we look forward to Yeah, like less
And I
than
know it's Brisebois there now, and he's not
yeah.
around, but I mean, I would say Yzerman pretty much put that team together.
Yeah. So we're looking at what, 30 hours, 34 hours till puck drop in game one. Can Dallas beat Tampa Bay like they just beat Vegas? Because we did look at the similarities between Vegas and Tampa Bay, and that's why it was number one choice for Stanley Cup final. But if you're going to do it, how is Dallas going to do it? Besides the obvious that Hudobin's got to stand on his head.
Well, we just had Noah Hannafin on our podcast. We haven't dropped the episode yet, and we asked him about Dallas, and he just said they got 3D that can just like make plays and easy zone entries for them where they're just finding those lanes and making those plays. So um, if the Hiskinen, who's the Lindell, who's very underrated, and
Yes.
he's kind of behind
Yeah.
Klingberg and Hiskinen, if those guys can continue to play the way they've been playing, and get the puck out of their zone and be able to break them out at ease, that's going to be a big thing. And then also the timely scoring. The power play for Dallas has been unreal. I think they lead everyone inside playoffs right now. They're clicking at about 27%. And anytime they smell blood and a team takes an undisciplined penalty or a puck over the glass, they seem to just capitalize on those opportunities. And right now, that's the team that's got the mojo. They remind me of the St. Louis Blues in the sense where it feels like it's their year for some reason, and they're taking advantage of every situation. Does it not?
Yeah, no question about that. And I agree with you with the blue lines. And I, I I know people probably would say I'm crazy to suggest that Dallas's blue line is better than Tampa Bay's, but you made an interesting point with Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen. And when I look at those two guys, and I've watched them now for a good 6 weeks, when it comes to controlling the pace of play, they are a great 1-2.
Yeah.
And I love Headman, and you could argue that he's a favorite for the Conn Smythe, that he's going to eventually break Paul Coffey's record for goals in a playoff. And he is by far the number one defenseman, and you won't get an argument out of me. But as far as the second guy on Tampa Bay's blue line that can control the pace of play, like Miro Heiskanen, Sergachev is closing in, and he's going to be a terrific player, but he's not there yet. And when you go down the list, McDonough's a great shutdown guy and can clean the house and make some decent plays, but he's not a control pace of play guy. Shattenkirk's had a great fit for them and can jump up on a play, but he's not control of pace of play. But Miro and Klingberg can do that on Dallas, and Hedberg can do it for Tampa Bay, but that's it. Is that enough to keep this close for Tampa Bay? Those two guys alone.
I would give slight edge to Dallas like you as far as the back end, because then you got like the 4, 5, and 6 of like Sekera, who I mean he's no slouch either. He's a great player. I actually played with him in Owen Sound and Junior, but I mean it's gonna all depend on how much Headman can drive the bus. And this guy is, I would probably say if they win, he's probably gonna be the case for the Conn Smythe at this point because of the amount of ice he's able to lug. And I mean, I guess you could pick a few guys on that team, but as far as the back end's concerned, that's a lot of ice time that he'll have to elevate his game for in order to compete with that 1-2 punch. And I agree with you in that sense.
Well, and Point, we'll see how healthy he is and what kind of consistent push that he has. Will he continue to play every other game? Would that be enough for him if he was able to have a big game or two to win a Conn Smythe? But no question that Point and Headman would be running head to head right now for that. Another guy,
well, even Cooch right now, I think he played about 60 minutes in the last 2 games total. Yeah. And for a forward, that's banana lands. So the fatigue factor of Cooch having to step up in the fact that Point's been in and out of the lineup, and when he has been, he's been at probably 60 or 70%. So there's a lot of interesting factors going into this finals.
And another guy that 6 weeks ago we wouldn't have seen in the running for a Conn Smythe would have been Jamie Benn. And I know that you were a little down on him, but you've had a 180 on Jamie Benn and the playoffs he's had.
he hadn't stood out at first, and I hadn't been keeping track of his points. And you normally when I'm watching, I'm looking at how much you can dominate play, right? And I was actually surprised to see the number after I was critical of. I wasn't like hard on them. I just said they haven't played up to what maybe they're getting paid, Ben and Sagan. But I mean, then Witt corrected me and was like, "Well, Ben's actually been lighting it up pretty good." And then obviously after that, in my comments, Dallas fans have been all over me because he's continued to light the lamp. And I think the older group of guys in Dallas know with the add of Pavelski and Corey Perry, they know that this opportunity doesn't come very often, and they're galvanizing the group in the sense of, guys, like, this might be your only chance at this thing. Like, let's go get it now. And he's been an awesome playoff performer. Not backing down from anyone. He likes the rough stuff too. Like, he was getting into it with Stone a little bit. He ain't backing down. He's a throwback, old school type of player. And yeah, I would definitely he's in the top 3 for Dallas for sure.
Yeah,
I would have Hudobin, him, and who else?
well,
Probably
Heskinen's still got to
Heiskanen.
be in there. Still,
Yeah.
still for sure, he's in the mix. And Dallas wins. I would say Heskinen would be the odds-on favorite because he's going to have a monster final for Dallas to beat Tampa Bay. And Radulov too. Like, you're talking about big bodies in front of the net, and that's where I think they manhandled Vegas's blue line a little bit, particularly on Ben's so important goal in Game 7 that got the ball rolling. Radulov just steamrolled Nate Schmidt, and they can do that. That lineup has the ability to do that, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of it in Game 1 tomorrow night.
Big time. Yeah, that's as far as Vegas is concerned, I was shocked to see them get bounced in 5. But I would point one of the problems is their net front presence. They weren't able to get those second and third cracks at it. And Dallas is that type of team where they're willing to get their nose dirty. You get Corey Perry, you get Pavelski, you get Radulov, who will go right to the blue paint. And Radulov's the type of player, he just lives for those big game moments, and he loves to score. I don't think anyone likes scoring more than Radulov in this
No,
league.
no, without a doubt. He'll take a couple more overtime winners in the next round here, the big stage, as we like to say. I'm Nick Kyprios. We're listening to the Real Kyper at Noon show with Paul Bissonnette, known as BizNasty, Business. We're going to get into that and so much more. Keep the comments coming. Hit the like button. First-time watchers and listeners, please subscribe. It's a great way to
This is
finish
live
up.
right now?
Oh, we're live, baby.
Oh,
we're
Jesus.
live. That's why
Okay,
Doug McLean screws up all the time, because we're
Let's get the
live.
heart rate clicking here.
When we look at the emotional aspect behind the bench, we know Cooper's been there a few times. We got Rick Bowness on the other side. Once upon a time, these guys were coaching together on Tampa. I heard, Biz, it didn't end very well.
Oh, really?
There's no there's not a lot of love, I think, between them. They are going to say the right things. They're going to say the right things, Biz, publicly, and they're going to class it up. But behind the scenes, man, I don't think Rick Bowness was very happy.
You're not stirring the pot either, because I heard that this is the first time that a head coach
Yeah.
whose former assistant has went on to another team that they'll face off in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of like a happy storyline. And here you're telling me that it was ugly on the way out.
He wasn't very happy. He took a lot of heat. Bonus. He had the defensive core. Of course, they were having trouble getting the puck out of the net. I think specialty teams, and I heard it didn't end very well between the two. So I love that part of the storyline here. That Rick Bowness gets one shot now of just jamming it down Cooper's throat and the Tampa Bay organization. So who's got the edge now in terms of the emotion? Would you give it to Rick Bowness?
I would definitely give it to Dallas in the fact that they're going to be a little bit more fresh, and yeah, and I think that they like that underdog title, and they've been rolling with it pretty much all playoffs. I mean, I don't know how many people picked Dallas to win it and or to even get past Calgary. Like, I had Calgary winning that series, and they were 12 seconds from going up 3-1, and then Radulov ties it, and yeah, I don't know, they just got that mojo right now, and I'd be interested to see how much they want to drag him into the physicality of it as well. And one thing I have been impressed with to switch it over to Tampa is the fact that any team that's tried to try to get it rough with them, they've been able to match. They got a little bite to their game as well. Kucherov's not a type of player who's going to back down either. And as far as physical play, they haven't necessarily been thrown around.
Well, how about Barclay Goodrow taking on a guy like Matt Martin, and what that tells your bench, and that those two pickups, yeah, they were expensive, first rounders for Coleman and Goodrow, but that is something the last 5 years we just have not seen out of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I played against Goudreau when he was with the San Jose Barracuda,
Yeah,
and I knew he was a player. He was dominant at the AHL level. He wouldn't back down. Has that sandpaper to him. Unreal pickup. I didn't realize they gave up a first rounder for him, but as far as Coleman's concerned, he's been an even better fit in my opinion. Just an absolute gamer. Where was he, in New Jersey?
yes,
And those are the two pieces that you have to add, because if there's certain guys who aren't going in the lineup that night, and that's going to happen throughout the course of playoffs, where the big dogs, some games they just don't have it. And those guys in certain situations have definitely stepped up, and a big reason to why they are in the finals. So you need the complete team effort.
all right, Biz. What do we see it a 6 or 7 game series? And when it's all said and done, you see who lifting the Stanley Cup?
I've been picking against them the entire playoffs, and I think that I'm going to go with Dallas in
Oh,
7.
you are.
Yeah.
You're going there, underdogs.
But factoring in the injuries and where guys are at, and fatigue, I think that's going to play into it. And then you also now throw in the storyline of the coach wants to bend Cooper over, no spit, no lube, sandpaper finish, because of the bad blood between them. Well, yeah, I mean, and just like I said with the situation from last year with St. Louis, I feel like they have that mojo, and it's their year. So I've been picking against them the whole way, and they made me look stupid. So I don't want to look stupid anymore.
And if
Hard to do.
if the clock strikes midnight and Hudobin's net turns into a pumpkin, will anybody be surprised?
I don't know. He's always been a good goalie. Like, people throw out his numbers over his career, and he's been bouncing around like crazy. I remember when he was in Boston, I thought he played pretty well, and then I was actually surprised when they didn't bring him back and they brought Halak in. But yeah, I don't. I mean, he's playing like a bona fide number one. Do I think he can sustain the numbers that he's put up so far in this playoffs against Tampa? I don't know, but there's it's not like they have a lack of scoring either. I mean, you look at some games where you're like, they're kind of boring to watch, and boo, boo, boo. The game I mentioned against, or the series I mentioned against Calgary, they put up a 7 spot in that closing game after going down 3-0.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of young guys stepping up that some people have never even heard of. And I don't know. I feel that it's Dallas's year.
Well,
And that convinced me after watching them against Vegas and spanking them.
yeah, they're gonna have to convince us that they're the way they struggled putting the puck in the net during the regular season is a thing of the past, because they're going to need some goals against Tampa Bay.
Do you think Stamkos comes back?
If he does, I see a scenario, Biz, where you're up 3-1 and you can put him in. That if you're John Cooper, he's earned the right to be put in, even as a limited role, maybe a power play. That's the one time that maybe you go to 12 forwards and 6 defense. And hey, Luke Shen, great job, great effort. But
yeah, he's done well.
I got the face of my franchise here, and Steven Stamkos, our captain, that I'm going to have to find room for.
Oh, you mean you're not going to health bomb Stammer for Schenner?
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
So
but
this begs another question, and just quickly on the Tampa situation. So going into game 1, if you got Point, who's a little banged up,
yeah,
I felt that in game 5, when they could have closed out, the reason that they didn't play him is because, hey, let's see if we can get it done without you, get some rest, so we have you a little bit more ready for the finals. Now you're entering game 1 where he's had to play.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that it's probably added to the pain. That's just assuming.
Yes.
Would you maybe sit him out game 1 and see
I would.
how things go?
I would, and I think it's consistent with playing every other game now. If you assume that wherever the consistency is, that the pattern should continue. That he needs 3 days off, whether it's a pulled groin or a rib injury or some cartilage, whatever the case is. That the response is better every other game. So I would assume that if it's a 50-50 scenario on how he feels, you err on the side of caution when we're talking about game one. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
And no, and
I
you
couldn't
said
agree more.
it would be great if they had 2 or 3 days to kind of reset. And usually that's, when you're not in a bubble, you want those 3 days to kind of ramp up the energy in the crowd and the fan base and the media. And then you drop the puck. There's nothing like that. We're going to get a back-to-back game in the Stanley Cup final. How's Braden Point going to be then? And we're talking about I think late next week when we could be talking about clinching games. How tough of a decision will that be?
Tampa should just sit Headman, Vasilevsky, Cooch, Point, and Stammer, even if he's ready. Just throw a mine torpedo right at the Dallas Stars.
That would put a
Just
ton of pressure.
play the whole AHL squad.
Yeah. So, okay. So you got Dallas to win the Stanley Cup. I like it. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning to finish it off. The depth's too strong. And I think Headman's going to be the biggest beast in this series. So you're going with the underdog.
Core group deserves it, man. I would be very happy for them. That was going from last year getting beat out and embarrassed in the first round to that would jubilation.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to get a little bit into your success story. And, if we're looking at, the start of it all, where would you really have pinpointed it to your success? Would you go back 3 years ago when you first did your first episode on Spittin' Chicklets? Because by then I think you probably had 900,000 followers on Twitter. So you had something early, but when did you know this was the direction that it was going to go?
Well, I'd probably go all the way back to when I was playing my first year in Arizona, where I was talked into getting a Twitter account, because I think that it all derives back from then. If I would have never started Twitter, like, I don't know if I would have ever, I don't know if it would have directed me towards media. I think media was just kind of the answer, given the platform that I'd grown on Twitter and the amount of, eyes and ears that you constantly have, in the way that it's been able to go digital, and you could put videos on there. And of course, with podcasting, like when I started Twitter, I don't even know if podcasts existed. But as the social media grew, I think it was evident that when I was going to retire, I was going to get into media, because I love being around the game. And I like the camaraderie, and I didn't want to, I like, the locker room was the most important part for me. I like joking around with the guys. Like, I barely played my last 7-8 years. I was a plug. When I was in Arizona, I was in and out of the lineup half the game. So after I'd retired and I'd lined up a job with the Coyotes, and I was doing radio and doing some Fox hits with them, I don't know. It takes a lot of brain power for me to keep it PG and to, present it in a classy way. And, like, you look at Patrick Sharp, and he's like, you watch him and you're like, how does this guy do it? How does he never, like, slip of the tongue? Like, it just, but it
Guy should be
seems
on
like
every cover of GQ that,
oh
he should be on
yeah.
every model covering. He's a beautiful man.
Yeah, he's a handsome
Hey,
fellow up
he's
there
a
with the
handsome fellow.
movie teeth, no hair out of place. But that's just not my personality. I'm a bit more of a clown. I sometimes get stuck on words and I say phrases the wrong way, and we just, we're clowns. So the shifting towards the podcast was huge, because it allowed me to be myself. And I also didn't care to tell all these crazy stories that I'd experienced. You can't really tell those on Fox or any type of major network, because given the climate and stuff. And I understand that. And I don't think that people should be exposed to that. But the podcast forum just allows you to be yourself, and say what you want to a certain extent. And if it's you, it benefits you. And I think that for the three guys that we got involved, I mean, we got RA and Whit,
Yeah.
who are very similar. And then even, Mikey Grinelli, our producer, we're just kind of a bunch of misfits, and it took on a mind of its own. And we wanted to create that environment where all the guys got back in the room and we talked like it was the locker room. That's how we talked in the room, wasn't it,
That's right.
Kyper?
Yeah, no question about that. And I really, honestly, I look back at my days at Hockey Central at noon with Doug McLean and Darren Millard, and I got to tell you something. That's what we try to do, is try to bring that locker room mentality in.
Yeah.
But we're still on conventional TV and radio, and I got to tell you, Biz, when you guys first started, what, 3 years ago, getting it really going, we were we were at Sportsnet, and I'm with Elliot Friedman, and I'm like, can you believe what those guys are saying? And Elliot's
Yeah.
like, oh, they're going to get in trouble, or, I mean,
Fuck
they were
that.
like,
No.
like how, like, I don't know how they get away with saying that sort of stuff. And we know where our boundaries are on conventional radio and TV. And I,
Yeah.
I look back at you guys 3 years ago, and in many ways, you guys ruined Sportsnet and TSN and maybe even Hockey Night in Canada, because we can't go anywhere near where you guys go. And now all of a sudden, Biz, there's a real demand for authentic coverage. Tell us how
Exactly.
you really feel. Grapes did it as best he could, and we know how often he pushed the envelope, but people loved it for him. And now you guys have taken what Grapes has done and gone to another level. And I'm not sure anybody can watch conventional TV or radio between periods and feel like they're getting the real goods anymore. And that's a credit to you guys.
Well, that's just being honest about it. And I don't know, man. I don't like to be told what to say. That's like the one thing. I get a little angry, and like when I get called in and we call them peepee wax, like, oh, you can't say that. It's just like, says who? We're gonna go create our own thing then, and then we'll get our own advertisers. And if you want to put the work in, put the work in. And that's all it is. It's like we'll go do it if people are enjoying it. And and it's not necessarily a shot at anyone at any of these major networks. If they want to show up and they want to do their job and not have to worry about anything in the back behind the scenes, that's the only difference early on, though, that I think what people need to understand. There was a lot of work in setting up the foundation in order to like make it so it was even worth doing that, right? Because like I mean, yeah, like someone could go work for a major network, and
Yeah.
I would imagine some of these guys are probably making close to $1 million. But one, like I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm not that good at presenting that information the way that they're doing that. And two, that's not how I talk. And that's really not how a lot of people talk, especially when
Yeah.
the TV's not on, right? Especially in the hockey room. We talked about it, that type of environment. And I think that people want that, the fans want an inside look as to all those stories
Yeah.
and what's going on, and the drama. Like even this Cooper bonus situation. I knew nothing about it, but wouldn't it be cool to hear about how it all transpired? You never really get the full story, right? Well, let's get one of them on the podcast and let's tell the story. And if
Yeah.
the other guy wants to come on and tell it the way that he saw it, let's do it, right? It's just very raw like that, and I think it's created a place where a lot of people get to enjoy, and they're not being force fed this like, oh, we got to tiptoe around this, we got to tiptoe around that. One other hard thing too is like we're trying to balance that line now, especially given all the social issues that are going on, where I'm not educated enough to speak on this stuff. Like I'm just, I'm still fairly young. I don't know anything about politics, and so we're also trying to use our platform to toe the line in order to create good too. So that's been, as far as you said, is like, oh, we can't say that. We're also trying to find ways in order to like, you know, teach these younger crowd and the younger followers, what right and
Yeah.
wrong is, and we
Well,
don't want to like, I guess push them
yeah.
down the wrong way. Because some of these things that I used to do in the past, as far as the drugs and the craziness, I wouldn't want my kid doing, because I know that it's a bit of a dark path. I mean, we just had Todd Fedoruk on, and he talked about his 10 years of sobriety too. So it's been a crazy ride, Kipper,
You know what, Biz? It comes with age and maturity as well,
for sure.
and not that I'm calling you immature, but there's
Oh no,
stages in
you
your
bang
life.
on.
There's stages in your life, and when you hit certain milestones or stages, you understand that what was important to you in the past isn't important to you anymore. And whether it's a child being born or a new job, a new responsibility,
Yeah.
we're constantly evolving.
I couldn't agree more. I was just a bit of a late bloomer. That's as far as like the immaturity and where I'm at. Yeah, just a late bloomer.
Yeah.
But I couldn't
But,
agree more.
the only thing that I probably look back and again, you understand your range, right? You know where you can go to. It's your show. There's no censorship, right? You can come out and pretty much say what you want. I never talked to you about this, but the whole Jeremy Roenick
Oh
situation,
man.
and I know, Biz, I know it was not appropriate. Okay, it was just he overstepped the boundaries in terms of what he said about a colleague of his, but to get fired, to lose his job, to lose his identity, to lose a career over it, like there's a range on your show, and we know what that range is. And I know I have a certain range that I like on the Real Kyper at Noon show, and I know there's no range on conventional NBC or Sportsnet, TSN, Hockey
Well,
Night
yeah,
in
look at the
Canada,
Milbury situation.
right?
Like
But
he got tossed.
I thought Jeremy could have been suspended. They could have backed off on him. They could have even let his contract expire. But to kind of, I thought he got sandbagged, to be quite honest with you, over that.
I felt terrible about that. So we had him actually live in studio, right? And anybody who comes on our podcast, as far as a guest is concerned, we give them full editing rights, even to the point where we had Austin Matthews on early in the season. I think it was before this past season, which feels like it's been going on for 2 years. And the issue arose in Arizona, and it was a great interview. It was very candid, and I love Austin. He's got a great personality, and we didn't play it because we didn't want to bring him any more attention. So we do things like that. Like we're not in this to hurt
Yeah,
anyone. So when we had JR in studio, like I'd known that him and Catherine were so close to the point where she was going on vacations with them during the off season. And I remember when he said it, and when we're talking in the midst of interviewing someone, like I'm half listening, half trying to worry about my next question that I'm going to ask. And I remember like when he said it, and I think all of our reaction was like, "Whoa, like easy," like. But we felt obviously asking him, "Hey, are you good to roll that interview? Was there anything that you wanted out?" And it was like, "Oh no." We felt that that was probably a place that he felt comfortable going, given that maybe that joke had been said on the vacation or something, right? And I agree with you. Like I would not have personally said that about a coworker because I understand where the line is, but I also don't think he meant any ill will by it. Like he was just, it was
yeah,
JR being as old school as those guys were.
yeah,
And it was a mistake, similar to the Milbury thing where it was a slip of the tongue,
yeah.
where it's like, okay, yeah, you said
But
something wrong, and there maybe should be a little bit a bit of a punishment, but where are we at where like people can't just make a mistake and apologize? Well, I guess in the JR situation, I don't know what the behind the scenes stuff was. I don't know if he was like, no, I'm not apologizing. I don't know. But all I know is I felt bad for putting Catherine Tappan in a horrible situation because she clearly had to take a
yeah,
stand for women in sports media, which were you know they're trying to get more and more women involved, and they're giving them more of a voice. So that's all that bundled up. I'm like, oh god, I feel terrible. And then on the flip side of it, because of something that was said on my podcast by JR, and I didn't take it out in order to protect him, I've now put his livelihood at jeopardy. So I had a hard time with that
yeah. I
too.
know.
Dude,
I would too. I
I
would
was I
too.
was on a trip in Cabo, and I like broke down about it because it was pretty fresh. And I called them
Yeah,
again, and I was like, "Dude, like, I feel terrible," and I reached out to Catherine to apologize, and, I didn't hear back from her, but I would imagine that's because NBC's like, "Yo, leave it all alone, let it die," and
yeah,
it was a
yeah,
a a very hard lesson to learn early in a media career, bud, and I still feel terrible to this day about it, and,
yeah.
I
There's
don't
no
know if
question. There's no question, Biz. It's a double-edged sword there, with the range. I almost look at it, uh, Paul, that when I go to your show, I expect, right, that raw, hardcore stuff. No different if I was to get a ticket to go see Chris Rock or an edgy comedian. I know what I'm going to get, and therefore that range is different than anywhere else. So all I thought JR was doing was just trying to keep up with the Joneses in your show with your range. And I think NBC should have probably looked at it more so that way, that he got caught. If he just would have apologize, which he did, and they could have suspended him without pay, even for a year. I don't care what. But anyways, it's just my thought on it. But
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up because I don't know how many people who follow your show listen to ours, and I spoke on it afterward, and I've been asked a few other times about it, but we're not in this to hurt anyone, man.
no,
If anything, like I would have liked to have been punished for it, and because that's the reason why I was the guy who would go fight for my teammates, right?
yeah.
I'd rather be the one taking the shots.
Yeah, well, listen, we wish him the best, and I had him on about 3 weeks ago, and he's got some big plans, and we
Yeah,
look forward to it.
he'll be fine. He'll land on his feet,
Yeah.
and if he listens to this, Jr., I'm very sorry for putting you in a tough spot. Same with Catherine Tappan and NBC. Fuck, I
All
fucked
right,
up.
well said, Biz. Well said. Okay, I want to get into a little bit of of first of all, we went to your start a few years ago, where you are now, and where you're heading. I probably look to you to maybe I don't know whether you want to keep the pace that you've had. We just talked about the work that goes into it, Biz. I look at it and sometimes I go, hey, your brand's on fire, but you got to be careful that that fire isn't at both ends of the stick, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm gassed. I'm very yeah, I'm very excited for this playoff to be over, and there's a lot I want to accomplish. I don't want to be in the industry very long. I think 45, I'm checking out. So I just want to get it all done, quick death, and beat it. But
But there's the
sacrifices.
business side, right? There's the business side of creating a media platform, and I don't see you retiring at 45 off of that.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends how the vodka does. I mean, we sold 1.6 million bottles in July,
Yeah.
so if that keeps flying off the
So
shelves, maybe.
so tell me about the pink Whitney. We know it came from Ryan, and we know his love of mixing the vodka and the pink lemonade. But tell me how the business side started to progress for you in terms of, I guess, Amsterdam being a sponsor already. Did they pitch you? Did you pitch them? Give us a little background
I
on that.
I begged everyone to do it, and they said no, and even Wit. And then I said, and then me and my business partner, we started looking into the behind the scenes, how if we wanted to do it ourselves, how much, like, how would we do it? And then it was Halloween a couple of years ago, and Wit called me, and he rarely calls me. It's usually me harassing him about more work and more this, more that. And he called me. He says, "Hey, I'm on the way to this Halloween party. My wife just said everyone's been talking to her about this pink Whitney and how we should start one, like we should do it." And I said, I told you, I said, I've already filed for the domain names and got the ball rolling with my business manager. I just need you to say, give it the okay. And he says, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." So then we reached out to Barstool again, and they said, "Okay, well, actually, now that you guys have been harping a bit, Gallo, New Amsterdam is considered doing it." And then that kind of got the ball rolling. And then a year later, we launched, and now we're like fully stocked in Ontario.
Yeah,
95% of LCBOs have it.
buddy.
We've sold probably, I'd say probably over 5 or 6 million bottles of it. It's cranking,
Now, do you
doing well.
own 50% of it? Does Wit own 50% of it?
I don't think they want me talking about the financial side of it on the back end, but that's maybe a conversation we could have off camera
Yeah,
about it.
okay. All
But
right.
it was an interesting setup because distribution's everything in the alcohol business.
Buddy,
And
I'm in it. I'm in it.
okay, well there
I
you
got
go.
my wife and I, with a business friend, uh, uh, friends who turned into business associates, started a vodka in a can, pineapple rosemary. Our claim to fame. It's called Little Buddha Cocktail Company. It's under 90 calories. It's gluten
Oh,
free,
cool.
no sugar, no
Little Buddha.
preservatives. Little Buddha Cocktail Company. So
That's such a cool
our,
name.
our claim to fame, Biz, is that we got into the LCBO before Pink Whitney.
Oh, nice. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
We haven't sold 6 million
We sold 1.6 million bottles in July this year.
in the LCBO, or
No, that
overall.
was in that month, but
Yeah, in the month.
I think in July we sold 30,000 cases out of the LCBO.
Yeah, that's
So
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, it was good. But going back to your question though, and I kind of touched on it earlier about when you start your own thing is how you have to okay, what's going on with the social media? How are we growing
Yes.
sponsorships? How are we growing the YouTube channel? So everything's left in your hands. Or our hands as me, Grinelli, RA, Wit, and of course with a little bit of help from Barstool on their side. And it just, yeah, it's exhausting, right? Because when you have a job with a network, and not saying it's not hard, but your responsibilities are probably not as much. Like, were you lining up guests when you were doing it on Sportsnet?
I'm sorry, you're talking about what on Sportsnet?
Well, like, were you in charge of lining up guests? Like, was that
No.
one of
Well,
your?
no, I would help out. I would help out, but they would come to me when they couldn't get somebody, right? And they'd come to me and say, "Hey, can you make a phone call?" And
Sure.
early in my career, I was doing it all basically. I was getting the Lemieux and the Gretzky's on exclusive one-on-one interviews when it was very hard at the time to get them. So yeah, that's just getting the job done. However it takes to get the end result, you do it.
And did you find it to be a bit exhausting
Oh,
at a certain
yes.
point, because you're asking for favors constantly? But on the other side of that, were you responsible for growing the social media platforms or
No,
no?
no.
So,
I owned my own Twitter, and I got to do whatever I wanted on it. I used it a lot to break news. But as far as any responsibility to Sportsnet, other than act professional, that was it.
yeah, and I think that over time, having all those responsibilities just tires you out, and your mind
Yeah.
is going all these different places, and it's difficult, it's tiring, and burning the candles on both ends. But on the flip side of that, I went 6 months without drinking, starting the new year this past year, just because I knew that more focus had to go on work. So just health and fitness, and keeping the mind right is going to be important moving forward if I want to keep it at the pace that we've been doing it now.
There's an easy way to get
No more ketox.
a Biz. There's an easy way to kind of alleviate all of that kind of pressure, and that's just sell the thing. Have you noticed some of the prices out there for beverages, alcoholic beverages,
Yes.
going for now?
That's interesting because Ryan Reynolds just sold his gin. I think it was
700, right?
700
680.
million. You know how many cases they sold last year?
Yeah, not many.
90,000.
I know.
So that was a deal where he has to stay on board and continue to help with the social media and the marketing and blah blah blah, to eventually where it could top out at 700 million. So
It's
yes, the alcohol industry is big, and that's why I said I'm hoping that if everything all goes well with the Pink Whitney, at 45, I'm saying, see everybody, have a
hey,
good
hey,
life.
hey, if we sell Little Budo and you sell Pink Whitney, we'll meet on an island
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, we'll
Okay.
share a PJ there.
Yes,
Yeah,
hard work on
yeah.
the alcohol side. I want to get into a little bit about what you're seeing around the league as well. This has been one of the fastest hours we've had so far, Biz, and I appreciate your candor as much as everybody appreciates it over the last 3 years on Spittin' Chicklets. But let's go around the league a little bit, and I want to start with your team, the one that you cover on a regional basis, and that's Arizona Coyotes. Like, what the hell
No,
is going on there?
hi, buddy, don't. So
Like
that's the one
three
thing about
years
me too
ago,
is
I'm sorry, just 3 years ago, you were talking about if they get this arena down at the college, and it's like, here we are 3 years later, and there's no arena, and we're talking about them having no money again, and they can't pay meal money in the bubble. It's horrible.
yeah, it's been quite the ride, and it's like I don't know enough about what's going on behind the scenes, because I don't do a lot of digging. I leave that up to the Elliot Friedmans and the people that are, those guys are
Yes.
bringing the
Let
actual
Elliot piss
news.
everybody off.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that's the brain power where I'm like, what the heck is going on over here? I don't even understand any of this. Like, I didn't even know the background to the GM that we just hired, Bill Armstrong,
Yeah.
right? I wait for all that to come out. But yeah, it's been I don't want to say an unfortunate ride, but just not being able to have any type of security with the organization. And this all started when I got here. I mean, we were going to the conference finals, and we had this guy who was supposed to buy the team, bringing us out for dinner, and then that ended up falling through. And it's been a wild ride, and I hope that they're able to figure something out here with the rink, and get it in a place where they're able to drive more traffic there, like Scottsdale. But yeah, it's hard when you don't have like a solid ownership and stability. It just it's a trickle down effect, right? And I don't know, these new guys have came in and they seem to be making changes, and I hope that they are able to pay all bills, and none of that is going to be a big problem in the end. I would imagine, given the fact that the owner he's involved with a lot of casinos and things like that, and
He's
things that have
hurting.
been majorly affected by this whole pandemic. Could you imagine purchasing this team and then all of a sudden that hits, and all your industries are getting bent over by COVID? So I don't know enough to comment. I just hope that it all works out, because this organization and this place has been very good to me. So it has a big soft spot in my heart.
We got to get that owner into online gambling. This show is based on blitzbet.eu,
Yeah, which
which
is
is
going to be huge.
which, yes, it's going to be huge. Absolutely. I'm giving away a Harley. All you got to do is put one bet on at as minimal as $1, and you get into a contest, Biz, to win a Harley Davidson. I'm giving away
I wouldn't
at
get
the
on that.
huh?
I'd sell it. If I won, I'd sell it. I ain't getting on all those things.
That's because you're going into middle age now. A young Biz would love that Harley,
I'm
not a guy in
soft.
his
I don't
mid
like
30s.
I don't like going fast. I
No,
drive
you,
like a grandpa. I
yeah.
drive the speed limit.
Yeah. One more question on Arizona for you. Bill Armstrong is going to have his hands full. That's really tough for a rookie general manager to go in and clean up a mess, and not to kick Chaika in the teeth. But boy, oh boy, dropping first rounders for penalties, violation penalties, has really left him in a lurch here. How do
Yeah.
you build now? You got to trade Ekman Larson.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you listen to the podcast. I don't think I was too hard on him. I had a very open mind as far as an analytics GM with no experience coming in. Like, I'm the first one to be like, "Hey, let's see if it works," right? And as some of the moves he was making, I was kind of like talking to other people, like, Am I crazy? Is this good? Like, should we be paying this guy this, given the fact that he on a grand scale hasn't accomplished much in this league?" And then, the analytics background, which I don't know what your feelings on it are. I just feel that in hockey, it carries like very minimal weight. But there's this community that's been grown, and now they got their foot in the door, where if you're critical at all about it, they're like, "Ah!" And it's just
Yeah.
like, well, you've had two strong examples of it that haven't had necessarily hockey backgrounds. Would you consider Dubas an analytics GM?
I would. I would.
Stronger than
Listen,
most?
when Kyle Dubas sits there in his post season conference call and tells you how good Cody
Cody
Cece's
Cece
analytics are,
analytically was. It's
then
just like,
it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
yeah,
Don't
that's
even if you believe it, don't say it.
yeah,
Don't
don't
say it
say it.
because it doesn't pass the eye test.
No,
People,
not
the
even
first
close.
analytic you should go to is an eye test.
I couldn't agree more. And that's where and then Chaika being another, where it's like, well, he didn't play at a high level. He hasn't been around the game very long. I would think that I probably know more about watching the game than he does, right? But then I'm like, well, fuck, these new analytics in this movement, like maybe there's something I don't know, right? Like maybe they're doing more than something that I can fathom. But then I see the moves and I'm like, well, this ain't it.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that you're strongly basing these decisions off analytics and or to some degree, well, then I'm for sure off the analytic train. I give them this much say at the table inside of a locker room, and then other are in a boardroom, and then you get the people like, Colorado uses analytics. Yeah, well, they also have Joe Sakic as the fucking general manager.
Yeah.
You fucking bozo! Like,
Yeah.
is that your argument to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. And
That's your argument.
I like Joe's chances of knowing what it takes to win a Stanley Cup or
Like,
two.
give it a rest. Like, that's where I get a little bit heated on the hockey topic, where I feel like they've tried to corner the market a little bit and
Yeah.
create a window for a new wave of people to come in the game. And so be it, man. Keep it coming. The more the merrier. But that was kind of my overall assessment on the whole the Chaika tenure as Coyotes GM. I just
Can,
didn't see a lot. I mean, he did do some good things though. He brought Darcy Kemper in. he traded Tobias Reeder for Darcy Kemper and then
Yeah.
locked him into a fair deal. There are good things that he did.
God, I
And
hope
I
they don't
just was
trade him. Can he get away with trading him, or will Arizona fans, whatever's left of
Well,
them,
I
will
mean, you got to do
totally
what you got to
disappear?
do. You got to do. I mean, you don't want to be middle of the pack every year for the
Yeah,
next 5 years. That's
yeah.
not going to do you any well. But I think that I probably wouldn't have been as critical of Chaika if Donor got pigeon tossed the minute he got here. I don't know who got in a room and thought it was a good idea to not have Shane and Doan involved in the organization. And the fact that he's still not to this day is
Yeah.
crazy to me.
Sean Burke, another guy,
Yeah,
you
Sean
know.
Burke knows the organization well. I was actually surprised that he didn't get the job, but that's nothing against Bill Armstrong. I just think that he knows the organization, knows the history of it, and he's been around enough to scout and know
See,
guys from around the league. But then the penalty for getting caught cheating with the prospects, and we don't need to go into that, but he was guilty of it. Then they get penalized by losing draft picks,
yeah.
which is going to hurt us because we
Wow.
need those
And
in
I'm not
order to.
sure. I'm not sure how forthgiving he was for information too in the investigation, which pissed off
No,
Gary
he lied
Bettman.
again. He doubled down. He lied again, and
I
we
mean,
don't need to get into it.
it's just
Then,
ridiculous.
then to go even further, the way he ended up leaving. So pile all that in. I think the criticism was warranted. I have no ill will towards him. I wish him well. I know that he had that job opportunity with the New Jersey Nets, Devils, and then also if they pick up the Mets
Yeah.
in the analytics field. All the power to him. He was always nice to me. I have no ill will towards him. I just think if we're going at his job as a GM, it wasn't great.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Listen, it's been such a fast hour. I'm gonna throw a few one-timers at you, and maybe you can just give us your quick thoughts. What does Vegas do with Marc-Andre Fleury? How surprised were you how this thing played out in such a short period of time? Usually, number one bona fide goaltenders need months to lose their jobs.
I'm big. I think a lot about those situations. I don't know how much it affected that Vegas locker room. I said on the podcast that to me, if I was inside that locker room, but a lot of the guys maybe aren't dialed into the media and social media as much as I am, right? But the post that Alan Walsh sent out, I was just like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. What happened there? I could see where he's coming from, given the team has always played well in front of Marc-Andre
Yeah,
Fleury.
yeah.
If you're going based on the numbers, I think some people thought Leonard had earned the job and was the right guy for it. Would that be a fair assessment? You
Yeah,
think
listen,
Fleury should have had the net until it was
Biz, short sample size. You could look at, you could really break it down to save percentages and goals against average. They played once he got traded. They almost played every other game. I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury, from the moment that that Leonard got traded, played 2 games in a row. I mean, so there's clearly an issue. I think Paul or Peter DeBoer had in terms of giving him the reins, and then Leonard played well. So there's no question about that. But it really, really happened in a short period of time.
I think Leonard's numbers when he got there, I don't think he lost the game for 8
Yeah.
straight, right? Is
Yeah,
that
that's right. That's right.
he went on a crazy run. So I agree. It's odd that when DeBoer first got there, it went 2 straight games. And I don't know what the history is between them or if there
Yeah.
is any, but he had no loyalty to that organization before he got there. So he was probably just thinking, I'm going to go with who I think is
Yeah.
the best goaltender.
Yeah.
There were a few cases where I was surprised that they didn't end up flipping back to Fleury. But then with the contract talks that sparked up. So the post that Alan Walsh did, I would imagine that was kind of an eye opener for a lot of guys being like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
some drama."
Well, and
There's been dialogue between Fleury and Alan Walsh because when Fleury was asked that if he was aware that he was going to post it, he punted on the question. So
so
whatever.
the answer is yes. Then I was aware.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yes,
So I'm not going to put
100%.
words in anybody's mouth, but
Yeah,
that's definitely an odd
that's okay.
dynamic.
I
So
will.
okay, well there you go. There you go. And then also in the conference finals when there's talks
Yes.
about Leonard getting a contract extension, it's just like Hey man, can we just like get through this playoffs here for these guys?
Yes.
There's a lot of guys in this locker room that have put some blood, sweat, and tears into
Yeah.
this, and they don't want to be dialed into this goaltending drama
Yeah.
just quite yet. So I think that ended up dampering the mood in the locker room. And when you're trying to make a run for a cup, you need that group as tight as possible as you're seeing, because the better, to me, the better team lost in that series. Would you agree? I thought that Vegas was a better team.
Yeah, I did not like the blue line as well as I thought I did, and we know Shea Theodore is going to be a star, and
Okay.
Anaheim's kicking themselves. But I think there was a big drop off. Nate Schmidt didn't play well enough for me. Martinez didn't play well enough for me. McNabb's too slow for me.
Sure.
And
I just felt that, like, when watching the games, I'm like, well, they're carrying the play most of the
yeah,
time, and
yeah, no,
you
no, no,
know,
no, no.
and
Their
I,
ice was tilted. The ice was tilted at
ice was
times.
tilted, right?
Yeah, I
And to
agree
lose
with you.
and to lose in 5 games, that's why I on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, I
Yeah.
said, to me, I don't know, maybe this goaltending situation had more effect than we're giving it
Yeah.
credit for, just given that they weren't able to put up a fight and they clearly had the better team. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of where I was with that goaltending situation.
Yeah, no significant defenseman with a right-handed shot. I thought hurt them a little bit. There's analytics if you want them, but I don't need
Yeah.
numbers. I don't need numbers to know that.
Oh god,
But
now
we'll
I'm
see.
pro analytics. Now I'm going to get
Yeah,
swamped in the DMs
yeah.
here.
36, soon to be 36 years old. Fleury's got 2 years left on his deal at 7 per. I don't know if there's a team out there that'll pick any of that up cleanly, and I don't see Vegas being in a position to. Well, I think the only option it is, Biz, is to buy him out. I think that's the only option they have. But we'll see. We'll see how that thing plays out.
I was hoping the new expansive team was going to grab him because he's so marketable.
Yes. Yeah, that's without a doubt.
So
Without
right
a
away,
doubt.
you get this guy with this much history in
Yeah.
net, and he's so likable, and he's got those movie teeth. I think I'd like to see him with Seattle.
Yeah. And I don't. I think his best years are behind him, but he's still got some good goaltending in him. He proved it already. He proved it in the playoffs when he was able to get in. Still goaltend at a high level. I just don't know.
Other than the round robin game, if you take those numbers away, I think he was very solid when he was put in with the Knights.
Yeah. Just a couple of trades that we saw. Eric Stahl, is there anything left for him in Buffalo? You know, I was kind of surprised because the belief is he totally got blindsided, and I don't believe for any second that Bill Guerin owes anybody anything. But I think it would have been nice if you probably would have gone up to him and said, I got to make some changes here, and you may be it, so be prepared. But I don't get the sense that happened.
Yeah, those are the things where, and I'm thankful I'm just some peasant on a podcast where, like, being in those types of roles, I don't know what the etiquette is and
Yeah.
how much loyalty you owe to guys that you haven't been in the organization long
Yeah.
with. And I'm such a softie. I don't think I would make it for a good general manager or even coach, just because I'm such, I like the guy so much, and I would feel bad. Oh, I got to trade you. Oh, sorry,
No,
man. Like, all right, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't then. But yeah, I think that given Stahl's history, maybe a phone call being like, listen, this is the situation. We're kind of going younger, and we're trying to, change things up here. And especially if you're sending them off to Buffalo, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for a guy that's looking for one more Stanley Cup.
Yeah. But who knows, man? I feel like when he moved over to Minnesota, I feel like it revamped his career a little bit.
Oh, he was done with the Rangers. He had like 2 goals in 20 games. He couldn't barely stand up. We all thought he was done when he got traded to the Rangers.
So I think that he's one of those guys where he likes being the guy. So I think him going there with Eichel, I feel like he'll be fine once he gets over this. I think he's going to play hard, and I don't think he's just going to go there to like whittle away. He seems like a proud guy. And
Guerin's got his hands full. He has to move Dumba. I know there was some thought that he doesn't have to, or he could take his time. No. That team's loaded with no moves. Okay. And you can't get rid of Suter. You can't get rid of Spurgeon. You can't get rid of Brodin, who just signed a no-move clause for the first 4 years. Dumba's it. You got to get rid of him.
Yeah, Bill Guerin inherited a bit of a shit sandwich, didn't he?
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. That one's going to be tough. And I
And when
think it was,
teams know that you're desperate, I don't know if the what's coming back and the return is going to be where you want it.
and a
So
couple of
I heard
years ago,
Vancouver.
yeah, a couple of years ago, do you remember Dumba was lighting it on fire? He had like 12 goals in the first like
He got
32
hurt. He hurt his
games before
shoulder.
he got hurt. And those one-timers, I think half his goals were like bombs from the blue line, one-timers, and you're going, "Oh no, this guy's going to be great." And then I think last season I don't know what he had, 25 points, 20, 30 points, and it kind of dropped off. The only thing I would be scared at 6 million for 3 more years is I'm not sure what I'm getting still.
Yeah, I talked to Noah Hannafin about it. Yeah, are you an offensive defenseman, or are you the type of guy where you're going to set the foundation where you're going to be so reliable defensively, and then over time maybe add to that point total, right? Because if you're going to be a 50, 60 point defenseman, I don't really care if you're a riverboat
Yeah.
gambler and maybe you're a bit of a liability in your own end, right? The risk seems to be worth the reward, at least to some degree. So, right, is he good enough defensively to only be putting up 25 points to be making $6 million? And I don't know. I haven't watched him enough, but if he can continue to get those point totals, excuse me, to where he was before he got hurt. Because like you said, he was on a rampage in that first half of the season before he had to get shoulder surgery. But who knows? I mean, and the biggest problem though with signing these types of players to those contracts is now the cap is at a halt. So a lot of teams are paying guys based on their projections and where they think they're going to be. And like all of a sudden, man, if he continues on this pace and then now the cap's at 90 to 92 million bucks, this guy's a steal.
Yeah.
At 6 million bucks. So this halted cap has put teams in a very, very difficult situation. And Dumba's definitely going to be the guy they have to move. I just don't know who can fit him in and where.
Got a $90 million.
I was just stuttering like a madman.
No,
man.
you're
Holy
good.
shit.
I think everybody got excited when you said 90 million cap in a few years. Gosh, let's hope. Let's hope that that we can get this thing going again after.
You're telling me I'm in Arizona here, and then I mean, going back to the Chicka subject, I mean, we were a cap team, and if it wasn't for the quarantine and the 12 teams of conference getting in, we weren't a playoff team.
Yeah.
So that's why we're now having to shed salary, and that's why being a GM in today's age is insane. You have to be considering every single variable at all times. It's just like this moving puzzle.
That's why Doug McLean says that's why you become the president, so you could just like.
Shanny's got it figured out.
So you can just go blame the general manager. He's just the runner. The general manager is just the runner. He just passed the note. It's like grade 6, passing notes. That's the general manager job now. So much going to happen. We got a flooded goaltending market. We got all these big names possibly on the move. And Biz, you'll be nowhere to be found soon as this cup's over.
I'm going to hit the ninja dust. I'm going to go. I don't know what the border situation is, but me and my girl want to go on a hike in like Chile.
Awesome. Well, listen, we are so thankful you made time on the Real Kyper at Noon show. There's no way Doug McLean would have lasted an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes here. He would have taken 3 naps with a show this long.
Well, the fact that he still does it is crazy. Why did he's loaded? Why doesn't he just go enjoy his money?
He's in an RV right now. He bought about $250,000 RV. He's at Cabot Links right now. I want his life.
That place is unreal.
It rocks. It is. He sent me a picture of one of the I said, "Is that a Norman Rockwell painting? Is that real?"
Oh, it was at sunset.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. So he's enjoying it. You did a great job filling in. Thank you so much for your honesty. You took being authentic to a whole new level for all of us broadcasters, and we certainly appreciate you, Paul, coming on our show today.
Hey, congrats on all your success, and I'm happy you got this new thing going on, and you're able to do it your way, man. You're one of the OGs, and I don't. I was going to ask you about what happened with the whole Sportsnet thing. I guess we don't need to get into it, but
No, I'm okay with that. Yeah,
it was sad to not be able to see you on there
yeah,
anymore because I thought you were, one of the better guys, and you're probably
appreciate
just
that.
getting greedy, asking for too much money. Eh?
Yeah, you know what? Pretty much. And I know the last few years we had a chance to kind of work together a little bit on Sportsnet, whether it was a free agency or trade deadline. But you came up and did some work, and it was great working with you. But like anything else, there's the evolution of television and radio, and guys like you and Whit and RA are bearing Hockey Night and Sportsnet and TSN. They're scrambling. They're trying to save as much as they can. I blame you. I blame you for not being there
Oh,
anymore.
Jesus. Well, let's hope Little Buddha alcohol takes off.
I
And
got to
then
get you to try it, okay?
for
Because
sure, I'll try it.
it packs a lot of punch. It's not diety. It's not like White Claw is the king. We know it's the king, but this one packs a lot of flavor for under 90 calories.
You send some out. I'm gonna be off the booze train soon, so you got to get
Okay,
it here quick.
I will. Paul Bissonnette, everybody, on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Biz, thanks for joining us, and you're welcome here anytime.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, we went a little long here on the Real Kyper at Noon show, but for very good reason. Biz, no one better in terms of bringing the real deal to hockey fans across the globe. He's a great storyteller. He's authentic. He's everything that we want to be here on the Real Kyper at Noon show. For all of you who stuck around for the good hour and 15, 20 minutes, thanks for being loyal listeners. If you're a first-time listener, please subscribe. Hit the like button one more time for Biz. And enjoy Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final Saturday night. We'll see you back here Monday.